Hello, Dato'.
Hello, Tun.
How are you? Okay.
Good. Luckily, my place is outside. My place is all flooded, so I'm lucky. I'm a bit at higher ground.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Everything well, huh? Okay, huh?
Yes. Inshallah. Inshallah.
Okay, nice to see you. Thank you again for accepting the invitation by my students.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Cool.
Oh,
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. So your place, you say, I mentioned just now, the all banjir, all clear.
I think they're clearing now because we are at Setia Alam. So just yesterday, the further part was flooded. I think then the NKV highway was also flooded. So I think this morning was much better lah. So hopefully it doesn't rain anymore. So far the rain has stopped this side. It rained until I think 4 in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Right.
Good.
Okay. Hopefully, you are comfortable with whatever arrangement that the student has done.
Yeah, wonderful.
So yeah, and hope to see for this one, and good luck.
Yeah, thank you. I hope
Right.
they will enjoy a little bit of my sharing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
I'll do some testing with Leon, right?
Okay.
Leon, I'll just do some, see whether the screen is able to be shared. I'll just try it. Yeah. You get the screen? All right. Is everything okay? All right. So, yep. I'll stop share now. Okay, then I think should be all right.
We'll wait for another 5 minutes, then we'll begin. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the second session of the evening, a webinar talk series. My name is Leon. I'll be the host for this evening as well. For those who are new, I would like to give a warm welcome to each and every one of you to our Taylor's University final year interior architecture exhibition seminar, QRIO EFX. We're excited to be hosting you, and we thank all of you for registering with us and joining us today. So without further delay, it's an honor to welcome an award-winning guest as a speaker for our seminar, IDr Joe Chan. I would like to give a brief introduction. IDr Joe Chan is an architectural designer turned interior designer, architecturally trained in Australia. Joe founded award-winning design firm, DesignTone, after spending more than a decade working in level management for international and award-winning industries firms. So for the past few years, IDr Joe Chan work has been constantly garnering design awards and recognition, and it's prominently and exclusively featured in OC Office Concepts magazines for 2 consecutive years, and also featured in Home and Décor magazines in 2013, and also in Design Space magazines. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest speaker for this seminar, IDr Joe Chan, to speak on his topic, Is Simple Design Better?
Good afternoon and good evening, Leon, and the rest of the attendees. Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. Thank you so much, Taylor's Design School, for inviting me and giving me an honor to speak on this platform. And congratulations on your graduation show. And I hope, the past 2 days has been quite a natural disaster, with the flood, and I hope everyone is well and safe. So without further ado, I would like to allow me to share my screen to start my talk. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So without further ado, thank you again. Today I'm going to talk about the simplicity in design. Like what my synopsis I've shared with the crew itself. As a designer, we tend to, in our quest of designing, we tend to over design most of the time. So we tend to complicate design. I'm guilty as charged. I'm equally, always, trying to push where there's, sometimes I realize that, the more the push, the worse I get into my design. And I'm sure if students resonates that, they keep on doing and doing, and they don't know when to stop until the deadline, over the deadline most of the time. So I think it's a good point as well. As a designer, the quest for perfection is always there. But sometimes, the basic and the most simplistic idea sometimes works the best. So a little bit about DesignTone, right? DesignTone into practice. I founded DesignTone about 12 years back. Basically, we are a multidisciplinary interior practice. We do all genre of design. From what you see here is from very small kiosks, F&B kiosks, to banks, commercial projects, retails, corporate offices, to hotels, to even bigger jobs, hotels, and high-end residential and whatnot. So this is a little bit about the background of DesignTone. We are a very dedicated team, 20 plus of us, and we do all genre and all typology of design. However, what I like to do personally as a personal interest, these are the things that I like to do personally. I like to do projects that is very simple, where I can find items, day-to-day items that I can transform into design. Quirky ideas, simple materials, simple sculptures that I can put together. So these are some of the samples that I've done, in a cafe that I did, where I took some old stools and put it into a shop front as an installation art, for a cafe. And the idea is basically, come here, have a seat, so they literally translate from the stool is come here, have a seat, have a chat and things like that. And then when you see the next picture on the middle part here is basically this figurine, this hand figure has always sat on my table. So I thought, hey, why not I use it as a, as a handle, it's like, when you push the door, it's like high five, you push it into it. And then I found some, plastic container, and it transformed it into a sink. And those figurine that you see in this on the right hand side of the wall, those multi figurine that you can see, they can get, so I translate it into metaphor in the cafe. It's like, you have many figurines, and it sort of symbolized that, no man is an island, so you cannot live alone, so you have to live with everyone around you. So that's sort of a metaphor. And of course the handle of the bicycle, so to be a handle as well. So like day-to-day items, day-to-day materials, cement floors, on the left-hand side, basically the metal rack that you see in those storage racks or whatsoever, and give it another coat of paint, yellow, and it becomes a different look and feel, and the wrench, you can transform it into the table leg, and on the right-hand side is basically a metal bin, dustbin that I found in IKEA, and I put a propeller, which comes from the ceiling fan and a wheelbarrow. So I like to do ideas like this, and of course, you guys are quite more familiar on the right-hand side, whereby you see Taylor's, Taylor's SCBD studio, whereby on the ceiling is actually those rainwater downpipe, and we spray into different colors, and we convert it into a lighting feature, and of course, on the left-hand side, you will see, the ceiling is actually those grid ceiling that you see in your studio, and whereby it's a very cheap material, and if you arrange it in a different arrangement, it becomes a feature, and corrugated metal sheet lining the walls. So these are all the small ideas that I like to do, and on a personal note, and transform it in design that forms the basis of what I'm going to share to you in the project. So yeah, basically today I'm going to share with you two projects, very simple design concept and design ideas. And first, the first project will be House 44, right? So the unmasking of House 44. Well, as what I said, design doesn't have to be complicated, right? In this manner, design just has to fulfill its function and purpose. For this case, the functional purpose is for a small family of 3, right? Husband, wife, and a teenage kid. So House 44 is located in Setia Alam. It sits between a 6,000 plus square feet or 600 plus meter square sort of land, and it's a semi-D corner unit. What I'm showing you is basically the floor plate or the footprint of the house, and you can see the car and the human figure as a scale, and we have a vast piece of land, right, on the right hand side. So there's a lot of potential in this project, right? There's a lot of potential in this project. So you could, you could actually construct another house, as you can see from here, or you can even construct a swimming pool, So there's a lot of potential for this project because of the land, right? You can really build a mansion. However, I start questioning the basic question, is this a vanity project, or there's truth to its meaning? Am I creating a house, or am I creating a home? So I look into the need and want, that space, that I realized I don't really need a lot of program in the space based on the habits of our previous house. So then it formed the basis of how I navigate or design the house itself, right? So you can see, learning from the past experience that I had, whereby I realized that there's a lot of vanity spaces that actually, if we don't really use, so it's underutilized spaces. So I make sure that in this space, all the space used are actually accommodating to the needs and wants of the users itself. So as you can see from the entrance, there's this is the entrance, the 01. And then we have the living, a very typical living space. And for the users, we seldom watch TV, and we seldom loiter in the living space, right? So therefore, there's a very minimal furniture. There's only 3 chairs in this area, in this living space. Then we have the dining, the communal space. I will call it communal space, because I realized that most of the time, the user itself, when they finish work, whenever they do anything, most of the time they would spend on the kitchen, or the dining table. So I realized that we can actually combine this space together. So we have this communal space whereby it acts as a dining space, a working space, a gathering space, even for guests. Of course, then the kitchen itself, and of course on the top here you have the bedrooms, the guest bedrooms, or in this case, my mom stays with me. So Basically, there's my mom's bedroom, and then there's a storage or activity space, the bath, another kitchen, storage, and then storage. I realized that you know, as we live based on the previous experience, there's always insufficient storage space, because as you grow, there's plenty of messes. There's plenty of mess. So basically, we require a lot of storage space. Of course, then there's a patio, and of course, later on I'll show you then the vast garden, because you know I've always wanted, or the user always wanted, you know, a garden that is very tropical looking, you know, and that's how we evolve the whole space. And then we have a container on the right hand side here. So likewise, when what I mentioned previously in designing, sometimes when we least plan, right? Things happen when we least plan. You know, things just evolve automatically. And I realized as I planned the house, right, I actually created a second house for my mom, whereby if you look at this diagram, you know, there's the bedroom, there's activity room, and then of course there's a kitchen, and there's also a lounge as a dining area. So basically we created two houses. So you don't really need to enter from the main house. If she comes to the house, she can just go through this entrance to her own house. So it is kind of, you know, peculiar. You know, sometimes when we least plan, something remarkable would happen, and then you know, it doesn't really need to pass through the main house. And this works pretty well. That I created two houses in one. So as for the top floor, right, I would say we don't really utilize a lot of space, right? So this is basically the main house. Before it's renovated, and this is the new space that I've created. It comprises of 3 rooms. So because of feng shui requirement, right, and also because of the orientation of the sun, where it's on the right hand side here, the western sun is always very warm on the right hand side here. So I've kind of shifted the whole bath to the right hand side, right? So the master bedroom is on the left hand side, and we combine the store, or the store here, to be the wardrobe. So basically you have a master bedroom, a huge master bedroom, a huge master bath, and a walk-in wardrobe. And then for the living, which is seldom used, right, we tear down the wall, and this created a whole continuous space that combines the living, the family hall to the bedroom 3. And of course, then we have a little store on the left hand side, and we hacked away the wall and created another bedroom, a larger bedroom for the kids. So basically, it's a very simple program for the house 44, right? So I'm gonna show you next slide. So this is how house 44 looks like. Like what I've mentioned previously, I've always liked to use very natural material, sustainable material. As you can, most of the material being used is actually plywood. And the idea is basically to have a lot of natural light coming in from the garden itself. A very see-through, very transparent layout. I don't need cluttering space. Henceforth, you know, there's very limited furnitures, which we seldom use a living space. That's why I do not need it. I injected a moss wall here so that I have the layering of the interior filtering back to the exterior itself, the garden itself. So again, if you see, you can see there's real natural lighting coming in, very natural material into the whole space. And of course, this would be the kitchen itself, or the common space, the kitchen, the dining, all combined together. All these are made of, simple material, plywood, stainless steel, day-to-day material, hardwood. Again, all these are also plywood materials, you know, wooden, hardwood, parquet flooring, cement floorings, clean and simple design that I have incorporated in the space. Likewise, what I mentioned is basically I created a lot of storage under the staircase. You have a hidden storage here going into the store, display of bookshelf, cement floors all the way up to the first floor. And this is the patio again. We thought a lot about sustainable design, right? So basically, to to fulfill some of the criteria, or be responsive to the criteria. This wooden deck is actually from reclaimed wood, and we started planting a lot of plants on the next to the patio because we really love greens. And this is how it looks like when it's completed. And again, it's very interesting because sometimes plants will take the life of its own. And again, what happened here is this was taken yesterday, and it's all overgrown. It's grown so big, the trees, right? So what happened now is, despite we having the western sun, in the afternoon, it's quite cooling for the house interior. It sort of created a microclimate into the interior space itself. So this is the view of the bedroom, my son's bedroom. Of course, a growing teenager, he wants a lot of space, so we created a loft for his bed, bunker bed, below here, his sofa, and a lot of space for him to play with his friends. And on the left hand side, where she's not on the photo, is where his study tables are. So these are some of the architecture elements that I have in my family area. Of course, the TV, which we seldom use, this was taken from the old house, the old sofa as well, some handrail, and also some architecture element, that is leading towards from the ground floor towards the master bedroom. This is basically the view of the master bedroom. We celebrate a lot of lights. We encourage a lot of light filtering in, so we have a little bit of blind so that a lot of natural light will come in. And the idea of having the natural light flows from the bedroom straight to the master bath is created by having a large glass as well. So as you can see, the idea is generally very simple. The usage of it is very simple, very zen-like, so it's a very calming and soothing sort of living experience. And you have on the left is where the master bath is, and you will see that we use a little bit of a perforation on the exterior so that they kind of filter out or cut out the western sun and also the heat. Well, some people always ask me, why is your bathroom so polished? Because when they look at my ground floor, they always thought that, hey, you're using so much raw material. They would imagine something like, what Sexan does on, very raw concrete or face brick, But to me, the most polished space always has to be the bathroom, because that's where I spend most of my time in there, where, after a long day of hard work, I just want to chill and relax in the bath. Or, sometimes I can spend 1 hour, 2 hours where my creative ideas come from the bathroom. So that's why it's contrary to how the other spaces look like. It's a very polished space. On the right hand side is where I mentioned just now, we allow the natural light to filter through the windows, both from the living space, both from the bedroom to the bathroom, and vice versa from the bathroom towards the bedroom as well. So we did not change any of the window openings from the existing house. A reason I'll tell you why later. So this is generally the exterior of the house, and for me, respecting my neighbors or respecting how architecture in general is quite important for me. So therefore, I'm sure when I start looking at the neighborhood, the corner units that has been there, heavily renovated, the exterior has totally changed and totally transformed. I don't see the needs of it because I felt that then it doesn't harmonize with my neighbors and the surrounding houses. So what I did was actually a very minimal interjection of perforated panels to help, in the first place, is purposely help to filter some lightings and to give character to that simple exterior or simple facade as well. Of course, it's also punctuated with a tree at the first floor, kind of small balcony here, that acts as a wayfinding. When I say, hey, the corner unit with the tree on the balcony and on top of the first floor. Then some, he kind of like, oh, okay, that's the house. So that's all this little simple idea that I have, along the way. Well, so this is how it looks like, and it does really help, filtering quite a lot of lights during the afternoon. As we stay in the house further, then I realized that there's more and more mess in the house. That's why, thank God, we have a lot of storage space in the house itself. So likewise, all these are the details of the storage space, the handle, the pull handles, the details of the cabinets you can see on the left hand side. I use stainless steel for the top as well as hot dip galvanized, so it can take the rough and scrubs of the the cooking. Even it's scratched, so what, it's part of the characteristic of how I want my house to look like. Joint hardwood, even it's stained or even it's scratched, again, so what? So a combination of plywood. So this is all the simple material that has been incorporated into the house design itself. Likewise, as I stay longer and longer, there's more and more mess, and I pick up this little hobby of mine, of restoring a car, restoring a car which is older than most of you, because this is 1977 Honda Civic first generation. So this is the car that I restored. Then I realized that I have a lot of mess. I started collecting a lot of mess, and where do I put it? Then, since I have a big garden, so there comes my container. So this has become part of my house, extended house, part of my garden, and it become parts of my feature. That all my mess or all my man's pet, I would call this man's pet, all my mess or all my spare parts or whatnot to restore my little hobby were placed into this container. So there's sort of like an extension of the house itself, an extension of some of my hobbies. And moving further, like I said, the house is constantly evolving, because as you live longer in it, you have more mess, you want to do other things, So as of today, I'm actually rearranging this container since I finished my hobby of of restoring my car. And now I'm converting it into my son's pet. He's a boy's pet, so he says he wants to stay here instead of staying in his bedroom. So this is all the ideas that I have, constantly evolving, constantly transforming the house. And of course, like what I said, when you see, I have very mature garden and I love planting, and there isn't any much space for me to plant at this plot of land because all the trees have grown tremendously big. And this is what I did. You can see this cat ladder. I put it on because this is where I'm going to work on the next time. This ladder leads up to the roof, and part of this roof actually is flat. And I've already put in waterproofing. I've already put in water point. I've already put in electricity. So probably we'll do some planting above of this garden. So yeah, that forms the basis of House 44, a very quick and simple idea on how I did House 44. Moving to the next project, I am going to share with you guys. Actually, today's talk wouldn't be too long. I would just run very quickly on two projects. I would always appreciate when I talk to have more dialogue, question, friend question, I enjoy that more than showing my work, because I think it's like showing my work is like blowing my own horn. So it's good that we share ideas, or we share a debatable platform in terms of how I look at design, right? Okay. So this is basically the next project I'm going to share. Very simple project. It's a hair porter. It's a salon. It's an way back 2 or 3 years ago. I did hair porter 1. It's a salon located in, again, quite near to my house, Setia Alam. So this is how it looks like. The shop front, the interior, simple, I would say pleasant sort of interior. And moving 2 years later, the owner came again because business was doing well. and he's asked me to do another outlet for him. Initially, when he asked me, I wasn't too interested because for me, I do not want to create another design which is similar. But after talking for a while, he told me, no, Joe, I think we want to be totally transformed. We want a design which is totally unlike the first one that you did. So that interests me further. So then the location is actually adjacent to his current shop. So, wow, okay, that's interesting. You have a current existing shop that looks like that, and now you want me to do something that is totally not like that. So it's kind of like cool. It's kind of like a great challenge. So then with this project, I work with a tailorian, in fact, a senior of yours, which is now my staff, Aiden. I give a good shout out to him. So we work on this project, and we realized that, how can we interpret, right, this salon into an experimental, metaphorically space. So I was always very, I would say, very amazed or very interested in, in those hidden lab way back, when you watch in the movies, like what you see in this slide, Batman cave, how mysterious it could be, and then after that, when you get out of the cave, it's a really totally different world. And when you come into the cave, it's like, oh, okay, this is a secret lab, this is a mad lab, that sort of idea. So this idea has been back behind my head all this while. So it's great that I get a chance to create this sort of idea into transforming this into the idea of this project. So again, the layout is very simple. Less is more, because the shop is linear, right? On the right hand side is the existing shop, and the left hand side is the new shop. So what I did was generally the space planning is extremely simple. On the left and right, on the bottom is flanked by all this, we call it a hairdressing station or cutting station. Then we have a bar. Again, the idea of a multifunctional space. This can be a bar, can be a coffee waiting area. It could also be a color station. If those of you who are familiar with a salon, sometimes you go and dye your hair. So instead of sitting here at the hair cutting station, you can actually sit at the color bar here, or you can have your coffee, you can on an iPad, and you can just do whatever you want while waiting to be colored, or waiting for your color to seep into your hair. And of course, it's a waiting lounge here, and of course, a wash area at the back and the staff area. So the interesting part about this project is, as in any retail project, everyone wants to take advantage of the shop front. You see that they will window dress it, they will celebrate the shop front. But in this project, we want to do the opposite. We want to create a shop front without a shop front, a mysterious idea. Henceforth, if you look at the previous existing shop, and this is the shop front, you don't even notice there's a shop inside there. So that's what we created, right? Between the old and the new adjacency, right? And it's textured as if it's a cement, or is it a cave, or things like that. So it's just unceremonial and unannounced of shop front. And this is another view of it. So what we did was basically, to create a curiosity, we created a slit in the middle here, as if the scissors has cut open a slit, and metaphorically, and you can actually, it's actually at a eye level, about 1.5 meters, and people can actually kind of peep inside. There's the scissors as a metaphor, and this is where you can peep inside. So there's always this constant curiosity. And when we actually did it, it's quite interesting that we see people's response. People actually, on the tiptoe to peep inside constantly. So it's sort of like, it's sort of like celebrated our idea of people creating that curiosity, and people are really, really curious, So where's the entry? So how do you get in, right? Again, you see the entrance, you see there's something inside, but how do I get in? So they get in through the existing entry and through another punctuated wall to goes into the current units itself. So and this is how it looks like. So generally we break the wall, big opening, and kind of like having a world number one transform into world number two, like in the dark night, day to night, that's a metaphor. And again, the material being used, like I always mention, I always love to work with most basic and simple material, is vinyl floor, stainless steel, sustainable material, plaster ceiling, stretch membrane, and basically some cementitious material that kind of like elaborate that sort of the mat lab, and why it's all stainless steel and super bright and super clean is like it gives a heightened sense of alertness. It's just like in a mat lab, everything has to be very clinically clean. That sort of idea. So that's why the material palettes and the material play into this space itself. And this is actually the view from, you can see from the new outlets towards the back, the old outlet itself. Another view. So the seat again was transformed like a cave or like a rock itself. And then this is where I mentioned the bar itself, the bar for the color station and the product display, the logo and the stainless steel and cement wall. Another view. So generally, if you look at it, it's very brightly lit. A lot of stainless steel, homogeneous flooring, resilient flooring, that create that heightened sense of cleanliness, the heightened sense of clinical outlook. Another view with a lot of mirror. The mirror helps a lot of diffusion of the lights, which is interesting. And these are some of the details, right? And of course, you see both contrasts. Again, we like to play with different lighting setting, warm light with daylight. On the left-hand side, it's a daylight, and the right-hand side, a warm light. Again, there's a stone wall where the wash stations against the color bar itself. So that is a little bit of my presentation for today. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoys this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Joe, for your presentation today. So now Q&A session of our seminar. So I think Mr. Raswan would like to say something.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful everything that you have shared, even though they're just two simple projects. But
yes,
I tell you, whatever it is, that's to know whether the designer or the architect is very honest. You will show a very humble, personal project.
Yes.
Has always been displayed. They will never show the best thing. What is that? They will just show the most humble thing, and I think I appreciate that very much. And I think whatever thing that you have shown, even though there's two small projects, but I can see the sincerity and also the honesty of whatever things, whatever thoughts that you have.
Yes.
Inside the space.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I just want to ask you one thing, in terms of inspiration. Okay. Let's say, for example, because there's a lot of difference between what we believe in and what the industry wants. Because in terms of there's certain designers, I wouldn't call anyone, but when they do their project, they will just want to satisfy whatever the client wants. And then there's also another thing that what do we want in our work itself, in terms of honesty and so on. So what do you think? What do you view the kind of statement and so on?
Okay, I think there's actually a very valid question, and this is the dilemma I think all of us faces lah. What we really believe in and what the other people believe in, right? Is the reality is actually, for me until today, is quite hard lah. To clients have their own expectation, and of course you have your own design imagination and whatnot. So how do we come to it always come to a compromise, to be honest. It always come to a compromise, right? It would take some time. I think in reality it would take some time, because it took me more than 15 years to be able to come to a compromise, in a sense that be able to push a little bit of my enforce of my belief into my client, So I think the reality is, I keep on have to emphasize, it's actually a long journey for us. Sometimes whatever we believe doesn't have to be big. I always believe that, the client may have a very big idea. So it's how we find that little smaller spaces that we can inject our belief in. Let's say in collectively, like there's a big project, let's say a hotel, the client may want his narratives or whatsoever, and you have your own narratives, right? So maybe the main lobby or the main rooms, or you okay lah, because the clients, we have to adhere to that, So there's this big ideas lah. So maybe the toilet, I can still do my small ideas lah. So we can still inject, or maybe the Chinese restaurant, I still can inject, So I think we are in design, right? It's a constant pursuit of pushing that what you believe in, like any other, like artists, they really spend years to push their artistic traits, or skills to the mainstream. It really takes a lot of sacrifices. Yeah, that's what I believe. Yeah, therefore whenever I have a small project opportunity, right, I try to inject what I believe in. Simplest idea, simplest material, as metaphoric as possible, although sometimes people may not understand, but yeah, that's what I try to do lah.
Yeah, because you see, the problem is, we are educators, myself and Rumzi and
Yes.
a few of us and so on. But when we talk about what we want to see from the students' work, sometimes we would just want to see pure honesty and so on, rather than trying to satisfy what we try to do. It's not easy, and people think that because you see, for those who do not see how the 14 weeks or maybe the 2 semesters of us trying to teach the students, and then what they see, it's like, oh, this doesn't satisfy the industry needs and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But the thing is, the to get the students to do and to understand what is how to make realize of their work, that is a different challenge. And I would say that some of even the educators or the academicians find it very hard to express that, because we do not have a platform. See, so I think by doing maybe something like this, a bit. I think I can share this with you because you have been an educator before.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And you also are the industry player now. So I think maybe you can try to see what we try to do with the students.
Yes.
And it's not easy sometimes just to appreciate a very simple idea from what a student does. It takes a very from a different level, and it just go down to earth and try to to have a conversation and so on.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
Yeah, I understand.
Right.
I think the issue is basically we are all some or other being pressured by peer pressure, right? Peer pressure. Students being comparing to the seniors, and then we comparing to the industry. I think the industry in a way is very open nowadays. It's just that we just have to overcome that peer pressure, that sort of idea, that you just have to continue pushing that, sometimes simplest idea could be the most, the best idea. I understand, people, when every time, why is it so plain? Why is it so simple? Why is it, you always have been questioned that. I think that comes back to the fundamental basis of how you created that brief yourself. I'm sure, like, for example, your final year project, nobody creates that brief for you. It's the student create their own brief. And how strong is a fundamental to argue that? So sometimes you get shaken because your fundamental is not strong enough. And you start to question yourself back, is it, are you doing the right thing or not? If you have built that fundamental strong enough, then whatever question thrown to you, you have good, I think, good reason to debate that, you see. So coming back where I do House 44, right? Hey, how come you don't have a studies room? How come you don't have a living space? How come you only have 3 chairs in your living space? Well, to be honest with you, I used to have a living space, like anyone who built a bungalow, right? I need to have a living, I need to have study space, I need to have karaoke space, so on, so on, so on. At the end of the day, is it, am I building a show house or showroom, or I'm building for myself that completes the brief? I hardly watch TV, I hardly do my work in my study room. Therefore, and where do I do my work? Every time I do my work, it's mostly on my dining table. Therefore, okay, now I need a dining table, but instead of 1 meter dining table, I need a 3 meter dining table. So, it becomes a communal. Where do I always entertain how often do I entertain my guests? Hardly anyone comes to my house, not even once a year, or once in a very blue moon. So who sits in the sofa? So I don't need a sofa, right? So I get 3 chairs: mother chair, father chair, the son chair. There's only 3 chairs in my living space. So there are 8 chairs in the dining table, because why? If guests comes, they sit at the dining space. It becomes communal space. So at the end of the day, I built that fundamental questioning. Therefore I strip off all the spaces I do not need. I strip off the karaoke room. I strip off the study room, and of course there are additional space that when you buy a house, you have that space. So okay lah, fine. That I put my old sofa there and things like that. So that's my take on it. Yeah. All right. So yeah.
Joe, Romzi here.
Yeah, Romzi, hi.
Hi. Thank you for joining us today, Joe.
Thank you.
Joe, I like the way you tackle narrow spaces, Joe. The way you amplify narrow spaces.
Yes.
Where you turn it into, sort of like, sort of like luxury lah, luxury in terms of, so what is your approach on spaces like this, Joe? Whether there are certain, your ideas or your strategy or your design philosophy on this narrow strip of spaces.
Actually, the strategy is always the simplest strategy lah. Right? Don't overclutter that space. I think the understanding of material and proportion is very important. So material, in the sense that, of course, when you understand, for students especially, if you understand material, that kind of like what absorb light, what absorb light and what diffuse light, right? So that plays the trick. Example, mirror as polished surfaces on the wall or polished surface on the floor. What color? If you understand the fundamental color, when you have color, a black ceiling, obviously, then it will make the space look worse. Or lighter ceiling, color tonation, material textures, and things like that. I think what do most of the trick is actually the proportion, the scale of things that you put in, right? Proportion and scale. So with narrow spaces, obviously, sometimes you have to do a little bit of trickery, right? Let's say instead of a console table, which is 500 mm wide, let's do it at 400. That sometimes you'll be surprised that 100 mm, although you put in your measuring tape, is very little, but it does hell of trick into a narrow spaces. So things are being elongated. And one more thing I think is also you have to study the visual itself, verticality versus horizontality. I always look at it. It's just like when you wear a shirt, right? You know, you have a strip, vertical stripes and horizontal stripes. So that vertical would help it pull longer if you want that trick, or you want it horizontal to make it, you know, not that so high. So, you know, that's the trick lah. So I always look at the ceiling height, because it's not necessarily good if you have vertical strips on 3 to 4 meters space, and where you have only 3 meters wide. So you would probably want to go for horizontal stripes. You know, that's sort of the horizontal sort of planes or whatsoever furnitures, which is going at the horizontal planes. So yeah, that's a little bit of my trick when I do the spaces like that.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Ramsey?
Yes, thank you, Joe.
Just to inform our participants today, thank you for registering. Sorry for disturbing the Q&A right now, Mr. Joe.
Yeah, no worries.
Just to inform you guys, the first 5 people who have questions will win a voucher to Yazoo Candles. Yazoo Candles is a new trendy brand of candles. It's 100% hand-poured wax plus soil wax scented candles. So one of the questions in the chat box that has been asked from Sula, in terms of materials, to reduce cost of projects, we can use reusable materials like plywoods and etc. But what about terms of long lasting? If you can choose personally which type of material you choose, like go to materials that you like to use. So basically she's asking what type of materials do you normally choose personally when you design a space? Yeah.
Okay.
Or reusable materials. Yeah.
All right. I think, okay, what material I like to use? I always like to use, like what I said, I know, very simple, plain materials, plywood, cement, very cheap, economical material, resilient material. I like to use a lot of vinyl flooring in my project because I think it's very reliable and it's cost efficient, right? Maintenance load is also low. Reusable plywood. For plywood, normally, is it durable? Well, normally what we do is to sustain the lifespan, we normally coat it with a good layer of what do you call that, lacquer. You know, it's lacquered finish and things like that. So that should help sustain the longevity of the plywood, right? In terms of to answer on your sustainability question, of course we would. It's a little bit expensive in terms of the plywood that I use because it's FSC, right? It has the FSC certificate, which means it's actually greenly harvested, greenly produced. So that is more of, as an interior designer, that's what I want to advocate to the public for sustainability sort of interior. Other than that, choosing the right material, choosing the right coating, that would help the material to last. Example, the kitchen that I use, hot dip galvanized, right? Hot dip galvanized is actually a very cheap material, but hot dip galvanized, if you students are aware that, you know, they actually use in all the same material that is used in all the lampposts. You never see lampposts being rusted, so, and it's not expensive material. So yeah, so to me, is the finishing itself is look nice, and then it's, you know, water splashes is not a problem. So that's I look into project. I mean, for my projects.
Joe, okay, I just want to ask one more question.
Yes.
Joe, I mean, okay, I don't know, maybe this is it a trend or something, but when you see there's a difference between a design that is designed by an architect and a design is also designed by an interior designer. When it comes to materiality, the architect will always choose something which is sustainable, something that is cheap, something that is very fundamental and so on. But when it comes to interior designers, the splashes of colors, materials, and so on is very flashy. You know, do you have a say about that?
Yeah. Okay, this is a very controversial question that you are throwing to me, right? But I like it. Okay, for the record, I'm trained as an architect. I'm not trained as an interior designer. So after practicing for so many years, I realized, yeah, I think Rezwan was very spot on how architect do interior and how an interior designer do interior, right? I would always say that architect is colorblind because all they know is only 3 colors. Black, white, and gray. That's why it's a very controversial question. Black, white, and gray, right? Interior design knows all the color tonality, you know. So yeah, I think personal opinion, right? I think some like what I said, you know, because I think in architecture, the emphasis of color and colors theories are lesser than interior designer. So interior designers are bold in using colors, right? I am very bold in using my colors. The colors, don't look at that 2 projects because those 2 projects is a personal preference. But if you look at my portfolio, you'll see that, you know, my projects are always very colorful, right? I always believe that, you know, color inject life into a space, right? When I say color inject the life, doesn't mean that the whole every 4 walls have to be different colors and things like that. So that punch of colors is very important. I still believe that because architects are not trained, some of them are not very trained into looking into minute details. So therefore, you know, you can see a little bit different between an architect doing interior design and an interior designer doing an interior design project, right? Yeah, so that's my take.
Yeah, I think we got that on finally on record. So whatever it is that we want to go to the Lembaga Architect, we just use Joe.
Lucky Tan Nokman did his talk yesterday, not today, right? You know,
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, okay.
I have a couple of questions in mind. Looking at throughout your projects, I've seen the playfulness in colors. I've seen the playfulness in the materials that you use with housings and with the hotels and everything.
Yes.
But in your own home, you like to could I say that you're a minimalist in your own home? Could I say that you're a minimalist? And I wanted to know what's your definition on minimalism, because it's different for different people, because some people use minimalism without any you know, vegetation like you have in your own home. You know, they don't emphasize on all the vegetation around. And yeah, I just wanted to know your opinion on that.
Right.
Okay. Before I let Joe answer,
okay.
Leon, that is what we call honesty.
Honesty. Thank you. Yeah, I think a lot of people also. Well, I don't know whether I'm a minimalist or not. But if you want to categorize it, then okay, I am minimalist. But I think when I design my own house, it's just pure laziness. It's not about, it's pure laziness, right? When I say pure laziness, it means that, you know, I try to avoid having a lot of cluttering spaces and whatnot, you know, and so that, you know, we don't have too much dust to clean up and whatnot. When I started designing this space itself, right, I don't relate into any concept or any ideas, any references. I just make sure that I do what I really like, right? And when I say what I really like, then I start imagining the space. And because I studied in Australia, and you know, in Australia there's a lot of veranda houses. I was very inspired by veranda houses. I always loved the veranda houses. I always loved the kampong houses, whereby they have this veranda, you know, they can sit and chat, and then they look at the trees and things like that. So that is the first idea that comes into mind when I want to transform my house. I make sure I have a veranda kind of concept. You know, that's for, you know, I have a big patio, and that's sort of my answer to the veranda that I wanted, and then overseeing the garden itself, right? So As for minimalist, my interpretation of minimalist is basically, it doesn't, my definition of minimalist, it doesn't mean that it has to have very little items on the floor or little items on the floor plate, right? My minimalist is basically you have material or whatever you put there that celebrate its own originality. All right, celebrate, like for example, plywood, then it's plywood, don't laminate it. Timber floor is, if it's scrubs, it's scrubs. If possible, don't even paint. That's how I see minimalism, my own perception of minimalism. If there's the rattan is imperfection, that is perfection. So the imperfection is actually perfection towards how I look at, minimalism is all about. So you could actually have a lot of items, but it's in its purest form. That's my idea. Yeah.
So so the importance of having the materials that you use, it's to be real, it's important, because you can have those that are like fake and try to manipulate the real materials, but having a real material makes it more meaningful.
Yes. But of course, again, having said that, sometimes in reality we cannot apply that. We have to do the other way around, whereby we have to use the fox marble and whatnot because of budget and cost. That is the reality of in life. But if you ask me, if I were to do a project, whereby cost is secondary, then how do I want to express it? Then I would express it that way. And that's how I look at minimalism, right? I'm sure, of course, there's a lot of theories that states what is minimalism, blah blah blah. But yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We have a question by Faha.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Faha. Hi, how are you?
Hello. Okay, so from the projects that you've shown just now, I noticed it had like a lot of heart and soul, especially in your home. And a lot of designs that I see, like my personal opinion is it looks a bit cold and like just show houses. And so during my internship, I've had like meetings with clients from companies and also for residential areas, but a lot of them don't know what they want, and we show them examples. But so my question is, do you have any strategies or tips to tackle this so that we can like help achieve what they want when they don't exactly know it?
Okay. For show houses, first and foremost, right? We do quite a bit of show houses actually. I think normally we have a narratives, and the narratives, of course, is based on the marketing collaterals. Example, what I mean by marketing collaterals is basically first the locality of the project, the selling. We have to establish the locality of the project, the selling price, the target market, whether it is selling for family, or is young adults or working adults or professionals, or is an investment, or is a first-time buyer. What sort of target market they have. So when we understand that, we are able to create our narratives, right? So that we can convince the client, okay, you are selling at this price point, and you are targeting a first generation owner or second generation owner, you're targeting family, or you're targeting small family or large family, etc., etc., etc. So from there, I think it's again very similar to how you develop your design brief when you do your first semester, right? I'm sure when you do a home, right? Okay, these couples, or they may have kids or things like that. So from there on, you actually put on quite a good narrative, and I think that would help you at the end of the day to convince the client, okay, this is what our narratives, or this is what our research is based on, and this is how we, how we're going to manifest the design based on these narratives. So, and I think that would probably create a more convincing storyline for you to sell to the client.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to open to the floor again for one last question. Anyone would like to ask IDr Joe? Anyone?
Shy, everyone.
Okay, so we are now closing our session, our last session for our last seminar, and we would like to thank you very much, Joe, for coming and giving us such insightful presentation on is simple design better, and we gain a lot from this. Now we're moving to the giveaways of session of the evening. So if you could put your name at the chat box, and we will message you privately later on. So thank you so much for everyone who participated in our seminar, and we hope you enjoy our seminar and have a pleasant evening. And thanks again to Joe.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone. Thank you.
Hey, photo first.
This is a selfie.
Joe, there will be more question later, Joe, from us.
Oh,
okay. on the design discourse and such.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Coffee time.
Coffee time. Oh, okay. Where do I go coffee time?
We'll inform you later.
I see Mr. Lai has joined the seminar as well.
Oh.
Afternoon.
Hi, Mr. Lai.
Yo. Hi.
Yeah, guys, you open your camera and so on. You'll be looking at the future big designer, Mr. Joe Chan here. Soon is going to be very much famous.
He's already famous.
Infamous, not famous.
Infamous.
Okay, we will take the photos in count of 3. So 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay.
All right.
Thank you again,
Thank you.
Joe, for accepting our invitation.
All right, we'll catch up again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much.
Bye.
So Romzi tunggu jap. Romzi and the guys, just wait here for a while. Yeah. Okay, you may close the recording.